Oh, hello again everyone, welcome back, and thanks for visiting once again. And I've started off with poor working practices once again. That's bad news, isn't it? Anyway, not to worry, I can either edit this video or I can start again, and I'm going to do neither. I'm going to just carry on. So this is me here, and I hope that's you there, and very welcome you are. I'm going to carry on with some of the really final aspects of the Focke Wulf Fw190, but I'll give you a bit of a briefing of what's been going on, because it's been at least a few days since I've put something out about the this particular aircraft. Now, I've got to say I'm quite impressed with the model. I think it's quite nice. Hasegawa, in my experience, have always made some fairly good models. I did an F5E Tiger II very many years ago, and I recall that going together rather nicely back in the day, and that seems to have been the same for this. Some of the joints came out excuse me, a little bit rough, but I'll show you what I did to deal with them, and there's a little bit more work to do on them anyway. So with the seam lines at the top and the bottom of the fuselage here, as you'll know, obviously the bottom of the fuselage mates up together up to this point here, and then leaves a gap in there. Let's use my poker rather than let's use some sort of poker here. It mates up along this area here, and then across there and out to the wings, and you put the flaps down, which they are here, onto the bottom, and then glue it all together, which leaves a small seam here and there, but no large seam to deal with down here at all. But there is a small seam to deal with along here. Now that left a little bit of a gap, so what I've done with that is to fill it in with some I used Tamiya putty for this rather than the Mr. Surfacer trick that I used, because the gap was rather larger than I'd anticipated it being. And in that situation, what I tend to do is to overfill the gap so that there's a hill over the top, because there will always be shrinkage back on these things. This means therefore that you then have to spend some time with a rough file sanding back. Now, in terms of sanding these semi-curved surfaces, you've got a couple of techniques that you could use, one of which is this rolling motion with the file, which is a fairly natural motion because most people can't file flat. They tend to do this sawing motion, or you can rock the work from side to side as you move the file, or a combination of the two. I suspect most people do a combination of the two, which is what I did. And I've smoothed this down with an oldish anyway, 600 grit sanding stick. Let's zero back out again, there we go. And that's created a seam line, well, a lack of seam line, and then essentially rescored in these marks here, these panel lines. So I've done the same thing on the top, and what you can see here is, and we'll zero in on this so you can take a look at that as well. Is that focusing? There we go. You can see I've got a tiny bit more work to do there, just into that little gap there. Just in here, it looks a little bit rough on the corners here, but that's because you have a curved and compound surface, and so what we can do there is we can take a very smooth file there, and then just generally rock that in that motion, like we said, and that means you don't flat spot any area here, and you can then just move that little hummock down, and hopefully then we end up with a clean surface, and that's the plan anyway. So yeah, as you can see, it looks better already, to my uneducated eye. So I've done that, and I've done the same thing along here now, because the gap was a little wider. Let's zero in again on that. Actually, you can see what's happened there. There we go. We've got the focus this time. You can see that we've got more filler on one side of the seam than the other, so under a layer of paint that will disappear, and that will just look like a smooth line. And also then just moved that panel line there, just eased up that panel line. When you're going over the putty, because it's kind of brittle when it's dry, you do have to be a little bit careful. And what I tend to use in that way is one of these things, which is one of these CMK razor saws, and there's a very fine set of teeth and a less fine set of teeth. So if you use the less fine set of teeth on a panel line, you can just grasp the panel line with your saw and just generally run through it like that, and what you'll see is it draws up a little bit of plastic as it goes and just slightly deepens the panel line. So we can sort of do the same thing here. Just draw it gently up, and it's a very gentlest of pressure is all that one needs, and you can start to make those panel lines look better again. So let's move them over there. So that's that done really there. Same thing up the front here. So that was sanding detail lines there and making them disappear. The other way that you can do this is with Mr. Surfacer leveling thinner, Mr. Colour leveling thinner, that's the stuff, and a pad like this. So simply douse your and I'm doing this dry by the way, just douse your cotton bud, or what do they call them in America? I can't remember for a minute. Q-tip, that's what they call them. Douse it in the Mr. Surfacer leveling thinner and then just rub along this. Now this has the advantage of cutting into curved surfaces like this, and also not damaging any of your carefully preserved panel lines. And then you can go in later on with something like that, my little poker, and you can start to tease away those bits of filler that are left. So that's the Tamiya filler here, that stuff there, and it can be used alongside the Mr. Surfacer leveling thinner. I did a bit of an experiment on that, and that seemed to work quite well. And done the same both sides, so I'm pretty confident, having used this before a time or two, that will look quite good under a layer of paint. So we should have that all covered off. Now, one of the things I'm going to do, and I probably will put them on today, hopefully, but you know how horrendously bad I am at I'll take 0 out again. How very, very bad I am at guessing how long my videos are going to take, and we're 7.5 minutes in already. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to put in one of these machine guns here. So there's one on each wing, and they need to really be fitted in quite carefully. As you can see, that one, I'll zero in on that one again and show you that one fits in, but you need to fit to this gap here. Now you've got a couple of choices in what you can do here, and the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to use my magic device that you may have seen earlier on, and it's one of these things. So it may make a bit of noise, but I'm just going to do, I hope it doesn't really turn into a tutorial, but I'm going to show you how I tend to go about the job of fitting into these gaps. So I'm going to try and keep the work on screen so that you can see what I'm doing. So as you can see with this is at a slight angle, so this has to go in that way up like that. And as you can see, it doesn't quite fit yet, so we're going to have to ease out some material from this top side here. As you can see, that's not quite straight, so let's zero in a little bit more. I'm going to try and hold this so that you can see it and show you how I tend to go about doing these things. So I'm going to have to ease out some material here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to ease out a little bit of material, and then I'm going to test fit, and ease out and test fit. And one of the things to remember about using these sort of devices is it's very easy to take too much material away. So one has to be really very careful. They're moderately noisy, but hopefully not too much, given that the microphone's quite near at hand. So this goes up to 25,000 RPM, this particular device, and cost about 20 quid or something. It's very, very inexpensive. And I've had this a couple of years, and you can get these little Dremel bits to go in it, which is what I've got in there, and these things can go down to really, quite small sizes, but they're ideal for this sort of thing. I'll show you some examples. So you've got this one here that you can see. See if we can focus in on that. Maybe it will focus, maybe it won't. Doesn't seem to want to for some strange reason. I don't quite know why that might be. Perhaps I'm. There you go. So you can see that there. Let's just let the camera do its work. that's not playing with me for me, is it? There you go. So you can see that that's a straight on tool there. This is a rounded tool here, and that's a very, very tiny boring tool, I would think, which, by the way, is not what people refer to me as anytime I want to talk about hi-fi. So there we are. We'll get that one out of the way right now. So there we go. So what we're going to do with this is I'm going to put it on to 5,000 RPM. They'll start on 15,000 and go down to 5. Now, I don't know what this is going to sound like on video, so I'm going to do the video, and then if you see it, then you'll know I think it's okay, but if you don't, then I'm really making a pointless statement right here and now. But that's a bit like, we'll call it Schrodinger's boring tool, shall we? Anyway, so let's go. So 15, 10, 5,000 RPMs. There's a little light on the end of this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take a hold of the work here. Now, what I need to do is to make sure this remains steady as I can. So what I tend to do, and I will zero out a little bit just to give you an opportunity to see this. I'm going to hold on to the work here, keeping my fingers away from the rotating head. But I'm going to place one finger, or maybe this one in fact, this one and this one, onto my other hand, which allows me to maintain the steadiness of the rotating tool here. So here we go, and we're going to go very gently in there, and you can hear it beginning to take. So I'm going to use the curvature of the boring tool itself just to allow me to take a little bit of material, and I'm taking very tiny amounts of material away at the top here. Just very tiny amounts, so we have to be very gentle with this. So I'm going to switch that off now, and there goes all the noise. And what we'll then do is we'll just move to fit this. So as you can see, I need to take out some more material. So I need to take more material out at either side and also at the bottom, so that this will slot in as it does on the other side. And then I may need to do some filling afterwards, but that's not too much of an issue. So here we go again, 10, 5,000. And see, I just knocked the front of that. It's very, very easy to cause a lot of damage to your model with this if you're not really very careful. So here we go. Again, we'll gently introduce the tool onto the work, and then very gently make our movements here. Take some material away. Now you can do this with a round rat-tailed file if you want, but I don't select that particular tool to do this because you're rather restricted in your movement here. So here we go, let's switch that off, and there we go, that's gone. So get our machine gun barrel. Now immediately what you can see here is that things have got easier. This is now getting quite close to being fitted. It's a little bit high, I think. I think it needs to be a little bit lower, so I'm going to take a little bit more material out on the underneath of this. And we'll see where we go with that. And as you can see, if I wanted to, I could push this in, and it would sort of pretty much fit in, but I actually don't want to do that. I want this to be reasonably tight but not loose, so that I can fit this and make certain, and as you can see as well, it's not quite straight, so I can make certain that it's straight in both the vertical and the horizontal plane. So let's go back to using our device again, our gizmo. So again, we're holding the tool like a pencil, really, and then we place our third finger onto our left hand, which is holding the work. So there we go, and we'll then as you can see, we can we're just keeping ourselves nice and steady with the job here. We're holding the work steady on the left hand side of the screen as you see it, and then the right hand side is where the tool is moving, and using the tool here. And again, we're just very gently and quietly. Right, we'll switch that off and introduce our, just wipe that off, introduce our, and there you go. Now we've got the fit we want here pretty much. Okay, and what we then can do is, I'm going to move a little bit more material out at the top there, just a tiny bit. So I went a bit hard at that. If you're new to this sort of thing, go easy, because it's easy to take too much material. And as you can see, that now fits, and we'll have to do minimal filling to be able to get that into good condition where we want to, when we want to finish this job. Right, so it's little tiny sections here. Oh, there we go. There we are. So we now have both of those units in a position where we can fit them in. So, and that's that one, and you can see the same thing on the other side here. It's gone exactly the same way. So what I'm going to do is zero out here. There we go. We'll just go to 0.5. Then we can look check this for straightness. I can't do this on screen for you here, but I'm looking at yeah, that's perfect, that's fine. So what we can now do is we can now start to think about actually putting these units in. And what I've noticed that I haven't done here is actually finish this off quite. So I'll get my little file here. I'll just move them away a minute, move that away, and just finish off the filing of this, get rid of these sprue nibs here, and when we come to glue this, what I'm going to use is the white cap Tamiya cement. As you've probably, all of you experts out there in modelling land will have probably said to me, now Zinner's old boy, you want to be using the white cap there, because that will allow you to keep moving the work around whilst you get the fit right. And quite right you are too. So there we go. So that's that bit. Just carefully with those nibs there. I'm just going to have a quick look at that underneath the magnifier because of my roomy old eyes, as you know. I don't know where you are in the world at the moment, but it's in English weather terms what they might call brassic out there. It's 1 or 2 degrees, and you'll all say, oh for goodness sake, Zinners. Where I come from, it's -53 or something, and you know, if it is, then my goodness, you deserve some praise for living in that sort of temperature. You know, there's people like Steve's Vintage Model Builds. I think he lives in Canada, where it's pretty cold in the winter, and best of luck to him, you know. But there we are. But there we go. We'll just file off the tops there. Give that a quick turn just to get the burrs off. So we're now ready to put these in. Again, we just make sure we get the right, you know, the right. Oh, where's that? Nearly lost, but not quite. So we get the right fits here. That's how it should be. And then we can use some cement to make our fit work and stick. Right, so let's put that down there. Excuse me. Oh, hello, look at that. Oh, that's the seal. See, that's what happens when your glue tin's old. I'll just push that in with my little poker there. I may have to find another lid for that. There we go, anyway. So what we'll do is we'll just gently apply a bead of glue in there. Get that the right way round, and then drop that into its position. Now, because we're using glue now, it's very easy to get that in and stuck. So I'm just going to check that this is, I can only do that off camera, I fear. Yeah. So I get that straight. So that's your first one, as you can see. I'm going to do the same with the second one. Very quickly, just apply a bead of glue in there, and we'll just do that up there. I won't do it too tight, but tight enough to seal it. And then we can drop that one in there like that. And once again, absolutely no problem at all. Once you've got the glue there, gives me enough time to be able to move this around and make sure that the barrels are straight in both axes. And that one's actually gone straight in, straight as a bloody gun barrel, actually, when you look at it. And so those are those two machine guns straight in there, and they're fitted now. So what we can do is we can leave those to dry off. Now there's a moraine antenna. I couldn't remember what it was called last time I talked, and there was a very kindly fellow who left a message on the video afterwards, and he explained to me that it was called a moraine antenna, but I was tempted to call it a moron antenna because I couldn't remember what it was, and I should have been able to be honest with you, but there we go. So we'll leave those to dry. I can do some filling on those sections afterwards, and then that will clean those up very nicely. So we'll leave them overnight, and I think probably the next time that you see this, it'll be, I suspect, under some primer, because I'll have finished all these other jobs, and we'll near the end of that, and then we'll be able to move on to another project. And I hope you're having a good time looking at this. To all of the subscribers, both old and new, thank you very much for tuning in. I'm always very chuffed when people do, and it's very nice to encounter you all when you comment, and thank you for doing so. So there we go, just over 20 minutes this time, so not as long as previous ones, but hopefully there's been some something interesting for you to look at, and I'll bid you farewell until the next time. Thanks very much for looking in. Bye for now.